Hi, I'm Victoria. Welcome to another episode of the Japa Podcast. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Of course, on this podcast, we talk about the lived experiences of Nigerians in the diaspora. Like always, I have with me an amazing person who is going to share their journey as a Nigerian in the diaspora. I'm going to allow him introduce himself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ezekiel. It's a pleasure getting to know
Thank you so much for joining, Ezekiel. It's a pleasure having you on this podcast.
you. Thank you.
We've been talking about doing this since last year, but somehow, we never did it, and here we are.
I know, I'm finally here am I. Like, it's been ages.
Right. So, Ezekiel, how are you and what have you been up to?
I'm fine. I'm great. I'm just enjoying the I don't even know, like the crazy weather in Germany so far.
Right. The crazy weather. I mean, it's spring. I hate spring.
Yeah, it is, but it's still somehow cold, sometimes raining. It's just such a mess, honestly.
It is, which is exactly why I don't like the weather because spring is oftentimes not predictable. 1 minute it's hot, 1 minute it's cold, the next it's raining. You just don't know what to
Exactly.
expect.
Exactly.
But it
But we
is what
just
it
manage it the
is.
way we see it. Exactly, yeah.
Yes. So, how have I been? I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to go ahead and answer.
Well, how are you doing, Victor?
Well, I'm well. I mean, like you already know, I was at yours for the Easter holiday and I got back on Wednesday. People who travel for Easter usually go back to their houses by Easter Monday, but me, I did Jara. So I got back on Wednesday. And like people who listen to my podcast also already know, I've been jobless, so I've not been working.
Oh,
So, which one is, oh, as if you don't know, what's your problem?
yeah, I'm just pretending for the audience, you know?
Right. So I got back and yeah, nothing. I've done nothing. You know, the funny thing, Wednesday was the first time I came back from a trip and I didn't unpack my bag immediately.
What?
Yes, and right now the bag is still there. Like I'm actually looking at the bag as we
What?
speak.
I mean, you've been back for like 2 days already. Like,
Yeah, that's the thing. It's when I came back, I did not unpack. That's why I usually like to unpack really like come back. Like that's the first thing I usually do. Because if I don't do it, it's going to last forever. And this is the first time I
yeah,
actually can remember coming back from a trip and I didn't unpack. And today is Friday, and the bag is some of the things are no longer in the bag, but the bag is still there, and a few other things are still in it.
okay.
And we'll finish when we finish.
I guess you had so much fun that you don't want the trip to end, so you don't unpack your bag just to keep you in that, traveling mode.
Well,
It
we can't deny the fact that the trip was fun.
was.
It was a good experience. I had a good time. There's no denying that fact.
Yes, yes, yes.
But I don't think we also need to give everybody details of things that happened at that
Oh, no,
event
no, no, that
because
is none
some
of
of
your
them
business.
are definitely things that should be censored. All right, so without talking much about our personal life and our shenanigans, let's get right into it. So, Ezekiel, how did your journey abroad start? I know, because I know you've lived in three different countries.
Yeah.
Ajala. All right, well, yeah, tell us. I mean, the audience don't know.
So I think it
So,
all
tell us how the
started.
journey started.
I think it all started when I was like, I think 14 or 15. Then I moved with my parents to like the Middle East, Doha. And I finished my high school there. And then I moved with my friends to Shanghai, China. Then I did medical school. And then afterwards, I came back to Doha because of the pandemic. And from Doha, I went back to Abuja just to do internships. And then from Abuja, I came to Germany and there am I. So that is like the snapshot, quick version of my journey so far.
And now you see how you answered it. You know, this is how rich people move. Basically, they give you summary of everything because they don't like to talk plenty.
Yeah, I don't want to go into too much details because I mean,
We are saying the same thing. That's how rich people move because they just don't want to talk.
I'm,
Talk is cheap, like they say. So let's just do small,
imagine,
small here.
If anyone is very curious, they can always like send me a message or something.
Right, right. So, let's talk about your experience in some of these places. So, I
Yes, yes,
imagine
yes.
I think you were in SS2 when you
Yeah, yeah,
moved
yeah.
from Nigeria.
Yes,
You were
yes,
in
yes.
Akwa Ibom,
Yeah,
right?
I was in Akwa Ibom, yes. Yeah.
You were in a secondary school there, SS2. Then you move from there, you go to Doha, and I think you had to delay your studies, like you had to go back
Yeah,
one or
I
two
had to go
classes.
back to like go back by one class because like I did not finish writing. I mean, I didn't even take WIAC when I left. Even if I did take WIAC, it would have been useless to me because like over there, like they use the British high school system, so you need to do O level before you go to A level, and WIAC is not equivalent to O level, like, neither is it recognized. So I had to like go back by one class, then take O level, and then move on to A level, and then yeah, that was how the journey went and how I ended up within a few years more in high school, which is a little bit annoying, but I mean everything works together for good. So,
Yeah, I mean, but besides the annoying parts, which is I mean, everybody's going to be frustrated. I also spoke to someone who moved to the US, I think after SS1. She had
yeah,
to start over again. So, of course, I know it's going to be annoying, but beyond being annoying, how was it trying to the school system in Nigeria is different, like you mentioned, and you go to a
yeah,
new school
yeah.
system. How was it trying to adjust to the school system, adjusting to the fact that instead of seeing people who have the same skin color as yourself, you're in this place where maybe people might even treat you differently for your skin color? How did it feel? And what exactly did you do to be able to adjust to the system and
Okay.
start making new friends and stuff like that?
I think when I first moved, because I moved in June, that was just when they were ending the academic year. So there was like I think 3 months holidays. So June, July, August. And I had to start school by September. So in these few months, I mean, I didn't even know anyone. Like my friends were mostly like friends from churches, and we're just like getting to know each other. And then suddenly I have to start school in September. I mean, I was really excited because I was looking forward to like getting to know my classmates and all that. And then first day in school, then I figured out that, oh my God, like this is no longer like co-education. It's more like boys on one side and girls on the other side, and you don't mix in class. You only see each other when you're going home, which to me was like a
Interesting. You
huge
never
shock.
mentioned this to me.
I mean,
But keep going. Keep going.
I was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, so you guys don't share classrooms? I'm like, no, like boys on one side and then girls on the other side. So that was the first shock. And then I went to class and I was literally one of the two black people in class. And then my classmates were looking at me like, oh, who is this guy and why are you here? And then I had to like, introduce myself and all that. And then I remember one guy specifically walked up to me and told me that I should go to second set, even third set for like all subjects like math, physics, chemistry, bio, because they have like first set is for those that are really smart, second set is for the intermediate, and then third set is like the dumbest of the class. And he had the nerve to
You
tell
did
me,
just say
I,
Thomas of the
yeah,
class. Oh my God.
yeah, exactly. Like he had the nerve to tell me I should go to like third set for every subject I was gonna take. And I just looked at him like, does this guy even know who he's talking to? Like, does he even know who I am? So I just ignored him, and of course I went ahead to like take all first set classes, and then it was quite. I mean, it was fine because like I feel like in the Nigerian school system, my school had prepared us well enough to like match the British system, so it wasn't like
Yeah.
so much to adjust. And also, I was a bit higher in level than they were because I was in SS2 going to like it's like you finish SS2 and you're like going back to grade 10, sort of like that was how it felt like for me. So it wasn't like a lot of adjustment. It was quite easy to transition. But the only issue was like being the only black guy and then you feeling like you need to prove yourself because some of your classmates already have doubt of your ability. And that was the weird thing I had to adjust to. And for the first term, I did not really make friends because I was very quiet to begin with. Like, I don't like to talk to people. So I was always by myself. I did not really care what they were doing. And then, yeah, so I didn't make friends that first term. And then the second time was when I started to like, talk to my classmate and try to make a few friends. And by the end of the second term, we're almost writing our exams anyway. So like I was about to write my O-level and just leave and change the different courses. Yeah. So that was my experience in my first transition in the first school.
Okay. So, I mean, you never mentioned the issue about, I didn't know that men had to stay in a different class and women have to,
Yeah.
but is it within the same school compound?
Yeah, within the same school compound. So it's like you're walking from the main gate, and then on the right side, all the right buildings are only guys, and all the left buildings are only girls. Like they have everything is different. They have their own play court, they have their own swimming pool, they have their own classes. Like everything's completely separate.
That's interesting. Wow. I mean, because I know in the mosque, because I know Doha, it's um Qatar, right? And it's a
Yeah, yeah,
Muslim
yeah, yeah,
dominated country.
yeah.
I know people they don't pray together in the mosque, but it never occurred to me that it can also happen in places like school. And now I'm curious, in the office, like the staff rooms in the school, did they have a male staff room and a female staff room? Well, also, was it possible for a man to teach the girls and a woman to teach the guys, or did those
I
distinction go to everything?
I wouldn't know because I never had access to the girls' side of the school, so I don't know how things work for them. But I
Uh,
would feel like from the guys section, like the staff room was mixed because these are adults, so this was fine. But I think
okay.
I don't know. And also, it's like there's not a lot of schools that do this. It's like just a few international schools that completely are just like completely adopted the Muslim system. This was the ones that had like this segregation. But other international schools were fun, like both boys and girls were in the same classroom. So it
Oh, okay.
depends on who you went to, yeah. But this was just the reality in my own school, whereby we were completely separate.
Okay, that makes sense. And then the human being that said you should go to a different set. Okay, first of all, before we talk about that human being, I think I find it interesting that classes are arranged based on the academic performance of
Yeah, yeah,
students.
yeah.
Because one of my brothers went to such schools. There are not many of them in Nigeria, but one of my brothers went to such schools where um you are placed in a class based on your performance. I think the first year in the school, he was placed in the second best class because, I mean, the placement was based on your entrance exam. But by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
other years in his school, he was in the best leading class. But I think because from his conversation, I think it's that such classes are more competitive in that first of all, everybody's learning at the same pace. And then people are
Yeah,
also trying to maybe get to the next class or at
yeah,
least start being the head in their own class, which kind of increases some, will I say, a healthy competition.
yeah, yeah.
And
You have
because looking back now, I remember that the school I went to, we didn't have such separations, and some of us students have to take it upon ourselves to teach other students who maybe do not really have very good understanding of certain subjects or certain topic. I know if I had gone to a school that had that kind of separation, I would not have been in the for my math class, I would have taken the list class because I would want to. I'm terrible at math, but that's the only time I struggled in secondary school. But even with my struggle, I still find that after classes, some people still come to me because whatever the teacher had said in class, it's just not something they understood. And it's not because they are
yeah,
not smart enough, because these people can be doing so well in literature, they could do so well in English and other subjects, but just not in maths. Like I was struggling in maths too, and still people found that they still had to come to me to be able to understand what they've learned. And it's not just math, it's literature, it's a lot of other subjects. And
yeah,
I think it makes sense actually that a school would group students based on their academic performances because I think, like I mentioned, it's going to enhance people learn at their own pace and maybe some healthy competition. But now, someone you come to a school, you are placed in the top class, and someone says go to the least one. Of course,
yeah.
I'm trying to think what I would have said to that person, but I'm sure I would
No,
have
no,
given them words I will not forget.
I did not say anything because I was like, in my head, I just literally told myself, like, this guy doesn't know who he's talking to because assuming he knows who he's talking to, he would never say this to me. And I made sure he knew that. Like, I mean, eventually, after our first mock exam, I was ranked number one, and he wasn't even next to me. So, like, he got the message eventually.
Yeah, but did you guys ever have any kind of relationship within your time when you were in the school, or was it just that was it and you
No,
didn't even leave the door open for him at
I
all?
just ignored him afterwards because, I mean, I know how to play bitch in that place.
Right.
I didn't mean to,
Right.
like.
Yeah, I mean, okay, now, so moving on. So you finished from secondary school in Doha, you went to do the A levels. I'm curious, why did you not do your university in Doha? And why would you have to go to China? I know
No,
we've had a little conversation about this, but I'm not sure if that's what it. Now I feel like I feel like I've thrown you under the bus because I don't think that's something you want to discuss.
no, I'll just keep it like very short and brief as always.
Okay.
But I think the reason why I didn't want to do my university in Doha is just because, I mean, to be honest, like, no offense to anyone, but I don't belong there. It was quite boring for me. So I was just eager to leave. And it was always the same with all my high school classmates. Like, you just go there, you do your high school, immediately you finish high school, you don't want to stay there anymore because it's too boring. Like, there's no room for you to explore and, like, just see the world, as I would call it. So this is why
Yeah.
most of us are always eager to leave, and also the reason why I did not want to stay there. I mean, you've been there for like a couple of years and you know how things are working, and you kind of have a feeling like it's not for you. And for me, it definitely wasn't for me. So that was one of the best decisions I made because it opened so many doors after I left. So yeah.
I mean, okay, so let's talk a little bit about the friends you had. I mean, eventually, like you said,
Oh
of course, you
yeah,
didn't make
yeah,
friends. When you started making friends, it's been nearly 10 years or about 10 years since you left Doha to
yeah,
go to
yeah.
university in Shanghai. And I'm curious, do you still have any kind of friendship with anybody from Doha? Or was it like, I'm leaving the city and I'm leaving the people and everyone behind?
I'm not so mean to leave everyone behind. I took them with me. Like they are still
Okay.
like my best friends back from high school. We're still friends now. Like we talk all the time. We keep here all the time. Like the friendship is still solid. And once in a while, we travel to visit each other. So, like, I think this is one of the best things I got from Doha also.
And the friends from Nigeria, are you still in touch with anybody from
Yeah,
Nigeria?
I do keep in touch with them. Like, once in a while, we have like a group call and that, but we don't really talk too often, but we try our best. And also, most of them are married and they have, family and stuff like that. Like, I don't want to come between that, so I know my place.
I'm glad you're the one saying that yourself. I'm glad you're the one saying that yourself because
I
you know
mean, you have
you're
to be
definitely going to be a
honest.
problem. Like let me allow this to keep whatever they have going and it's fine.
Exactly, like, it's better off that way.
It's better of that way. All right. Now there's a question I wanted to ask, but I think I skipped my mind. You know how Nigerian parents always make decisions for their children without taking no, I wouldn't want to say without taking cognizance of the children's feeling, but sometimes, regardless of what you feel, whatever they say has to happen, have to happen. So I imagine you were in school one of this. First, I want to figure out at what point did you realize that you were leaving Nigeria for Doha, and was there room for you to say this is not what I wanted to do, or was it a case of you just wake up one day and what you are told in 3 months' time we are leaving this country? How did that happen?
Oh, I think like there was room for me to process that, and also like a lot of people from my school in Nigeria at that time also went abroad, maybe within the same year. So like I was already aware of the possibility of going.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie, I was like really, really excited. Even if my friend would have said like there was an option for you to stay back, I would say hell fucking no, like I wanna leave. Because I'm always down to explore and like I love the whole idea of like going to a new place to just like, see how it feels like. So I was so eager to leave and it was never even up to discussion like do you wanna go or don't you wanna go?
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, China. So you finished from Doha, you decided I'm going to leave the city behind. What were the factors that determined the places you chose at the time? Was it because China is relatively close to because I don't really know how the Asian continent is. I'm embarrassing myself.
Yeah,
I should
yeah.
know geography.
It's
I mean I
fine. We don't know
don't.
geography. We don't care. I mean, no
No,
offense
but
to people who care, but it's not for everyone. Let me just say that.
you get because it's but yeah, I know it's still in the same continent, but is I'm not sure what the distance is. So I'm wondering, what was the deciding factor the fact that well, it has to be kept on the shores of Asia, or was there room for you to say, I could go to Europe, I could go to the United States? Basically, what is the deciding factor
Oh, I
for your
think for
decision
me
to go to China?
it was more based on the finances because, like, since I have siblings, so I cannot be selfish and go to a place that my parents probably have to sell their plots of land or whatever just to afford. And then there'll be nothing left
Yeah.
for my siblings. So this is why I had to pick a place that was affordable and then there'll be something left over so that my other siblings could also like get the same opportunity to study outside. So this is why, like, when I
Okay.
was looking at options, I mean, I could go to US. I did apply to schools in US. I got in with, I think, 50% scholarship, but still, my parents still had to pay at least $30,000 or more. And also
And
in
that's
the
a lot of
US,
money.
exactly. And also in the US, you don't like go straight to medical school. You have to do like pre-med first, and then you go to medical school. And imagine paying like 30K per year for 4 years just to do pre-med. You're not even in medical school. Like, what happens after these 4 years? And your parents are like, dude, we cannot like send you to medical school. What are you gonna do? So I had to take all this into consideration. And then when I look, I mean,
Yeah.
China first of all was affordable. Secondly, I was gonna go with my friends. Thirdly, I was very interested in like the Asian culture. Like I really wanted to know like what China has to offer. Just imagine there's like a kid growing up in Nigeria watching all those, is it Jackie Chan and those, that kind of karate movies.
Bruce
And
Lee. Yeah.
and you're so into that, and then now you have a chance to be in that kind of environment. Like that is, I mean, it's exciting. So this was also part of the reasons why I decided to go to China.
Okay. I know I watch Jackie Chan and Bruce Lee, but I never thought, oh, okay, I want to go to China because of these
I
people.
mean,
But I see
everyone is
what you
different, but
mean because, yes, because no, no, no. I was going to say that why I didn't think about going to China, I thought about going to India, not to study, but I watch a lot. I
yeah,
watch because me, I watch Indian films. I watch Indian films a lot. I watch Chinese films. I watch Philippine films a little bit, but India
interesting.
was a culture. No, I didn't watch Korean films growing up, but India was the only film I know I loved so much that I felt I wanted to experience these people's culture. I wanted to. It's not in my place list of places to visit. Of course, now that I'm grown up, I've heard a lot about the
I
how
mean, India is fun though. Don't get me wrong; it's a
yeah.
nice place to visit, but I don't know if I would want to leave.
No, I don't think I would want to live there, but it's a place I still have my list of places to visit. If anything is taking me to the Asian continent, it's most likely going to be a trip to India or
Oh,
maybe
nice.
Japan.
Please take
Yes,
me
but
with
I've
you.
also like this. Well, I mean, we can work it out. We can always work it out. I mean, it's you. First, you're the one that has the money, so I'll just have you pay the bills and I'll tag along.
We thank God for grace.
Right. So yeah, so going to medical school in I forgot that you studied medicine. I always forget because
You see, this is what everyone that sees me. They think I don't know. They always don't think I belong in medicine. They always think like I did something else, like maybe law or communication art or something like this. Like no one thinks me for a doctor, which is weird.
because because I mean because people's idea of a medical doctor is not to say you're not smart because of course you're smart. You can't even study medicine if you're not smart. But once you're not talking about your work, you are
Mhm. Yeah, yeah,
basically
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to say it, but
Say it
once you're not talking about your work, you're basically an ashawo and you're basically talking about things that nobody that things that can't, medical doctors are supposed to be trying to save the world and all of that. They're supposed to be very serious people. They're
Mhm.
supposed to want to talk about saving, curing cancer. And if you're not talking about that, they should be talking about other things that are serious, like the economy, things like are serious, basically. But once you're not talking about work, which is never, except when you really have to, you're basically trying to have a good time. You're basically trying to
Exactly. I just love having a good time.
relax. You're
Yeah.
basically talking about a few things that are unprintable, and that's not the idea of a medical doctor anybody has in their head.
But I get what you mean. It's always the case because I feel like, I mean, I love medicine and all this, but outside work environment, I would never, ever, ever talk to people about this. Like,
I mean,
no.
and I rate it because for me too, once I'm out of work, I don't want to say a single word about what happened in the office. I wish that's why I
Yeah.
don't make close friends at work because I don't want anybody to be a reminder of the fact that I have to write their colleagues and kind regards and all of that. Once we are done with that, can we talk about food, films, other
Exactly, like
things? Let's have
something
fun.
easy
Why
and
we
light. Yeah,
exactly? So sometimes I just keep my mind like this guy is actually a medical doctor. Yeah, so
it's fine. You're not the only one.
so going to medical school in China. Everybody's idea of China is that Chinese people are very hardworking people. They
Yeah.
do nothing but study, and if you score 99 over 100, you have failed, and all of that. So, at the time you were going to China, do you have any idea of this idea stereotype of Chinese people, or were you not? Did you have the idea, or did you? And were you not scared of it, or didn't it matter to you? Because I know if anyone sends me to go to school in China, I would say no based on the
Why?
stereotype, to be honest, because I don't want to
Oh,
be in a
okay,
class where I'm the
okay,
least performing student. Even when I'm doing my
okay.
best, it cannot work. See, in Nigeria that I grew up, of course, 99, your parents would para. I was also one of the highest students all my school years. So imagine you throw me in a country where everybody is an akada and I'm now struggling and I'm still doing my best. No, 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 let's not embarrass each other. So I'm asking you, did you have this stereotype of China and their solid education system and how obsessed they were about academic performance before you went? And how did that shape or influence your experience of schooling in China? Yeah.
Okay, I think for me, like before going to China, I mean, I was aware of this because I had I knew like in my school, one of my classmates was Korean, not necessarily China, but she was Asian, like Korean. And
Uh-huh.
I think there was a day we wrote a test and she got like 98 and I had 100. And she was crying because she did not get 100. And she felt like she literally, because I was friends with her brother, so she went home and she told her brother, like, this is the first time like someone else has beaten me in a test. That guy must be so smart on all this. I'm like, dude, your sister literally always get 100 and I've never gotten 100 all the time. And why is she even feeling the need like I'm smarter than her? Like, first of all, it's not a competition. Like 98 and 100 are not that far off. And the brother was like, "It's like you don't know my sister. Like she only lives to study." So like this was my first insight into how hardworking they could be. But this does not really scare me because like I said, like I'm someone that loves to have fun through the process. Like I don't really care about my grades. They don't bother me anyway because I know I'll pass for sure. So it's with this idea that I'm gonna pass, so I can just let loose and enjoy, have fun, and just just relax. Yeah. So that was me basically throughout medical school. Like I did not care if my class were like getting 100 or whatever. Like that wasn't my problem because I'm not in a competition with anyone. I just want to pass and just enjoy my life, and that was what I did. And I was glad I did that because I had the best time in medical school, honestly. And not, I mean,
I'm sure
most
you
people
did. I mean, you
I
wouldn't
did.
you wouldn't stop talking about Shanghai, and I love it for you. I love it for
Yeah.
you. So now, but I'm also like, so what was different? Because now you've lived in Nigeria, you lived in Doha, now you go to China to study. I imagine that the school system is also slightly different from
Yeah,
what
the
you were
school system was,
accustomed to.
yeah, true. It was like my school had this policy. I mean, this was the first time I was aware like schools are allowed to, some schools can have this policy. Like my school had this policy whereby 30% of the class can get A and A minus, and then the remaining class would have like between B plus down to like C or whatever. So only 30% of you, doesn't matter how many you are, only 30% of you can get A and A minus, which is between, I think, and 98, between 100 and 90, this interval, which was to me was weird. So imagine like, in order for you, if you're someone that you're obsessed with getting A and A minus, like you need to be the best of the best. Otherwise, you would never get it because all your classmates, if they're also obsessed with getting A and A minus, they would also like double their game. So it just becomes like unnecessarily competitive, which to me that was like quite a shock because I've never heard of this being a policy in other schools before, but this was just what my school was doing, and that
Yeah,
was
but,
something
but
new to me.
when you say 30%, does it mean that if more than 30% has an A and an A minus, what happens?
It can never happen. They will look for like I don't know, like they will look for something to set you guys apart so that it's only 30% of you can get that grade.
Interesting.
Unless
I mean,
all of you
I
get a
told you,
hundred in the exams, which I mean it's not happening. But if all those 30% people get a hundred in the exams, then of course they automatically merit that. But that doesn't happen so often. So there's always something to
you know
separate
what?
people.
The first time you told me this, I remember I told you that the opposite is the case in Nigeria. I don't think there's any number of people that are expected to have an A in any course, but I know for some lecturers, it's for them it's a thing of pride. I don't want maybe that's a very but that's really I mean that's how
I
they
get what
come
you
up. Like
mean. Yeah,
it's
yeah.
as if the more people that fill your course, the more prestige you're supposed to have because that means you're a very good lecturer. You are very up and doing and you are strict and you are incorruptible and things like
Mhm.
that. I find it weird because I'm like, people are supposed if because for me, I'm thinking if people fail your class, that should be an indictment of your bad performance. But in Nigeria, I see
Exactly.
that some lecturers think the more people fail my course, maybe the better
The
lecturer
better.
I am. And here you are in a school where it's like you can pass, so but sha, if you get to this part, maybe we can see what we can do to maybe reduce the number.
Yeah, it was the norm. Like, I mean, everybody knew that from freshman year or from first year in school. You all know, like, if you need to get A or A minus, if that is your goal, you better work bitch. Basically, that is what it is. You better work
That's why I would not have survived in a Chinese school because I don't have the
bitch.
time.
This is the thing, like, you would find your niche and you'd be comfortable
To be
where you are.
fair, to be fair, to
Exactly.
be
As
fair,
long
now
as,
that you know, based on who I be, I'll definitely figure
yeah,
it out. But it's
I
also
think this is
like,
the
but go ahead.
So I wanted to say, like, this is what students should know. Like, when you go to university, you are not in a competition with anybody. You just, at the end of the day, you should always focus on yourself. If your aim is to get all A's, that is beautiful. We love that for you. Go ahead and do that. But if you feel like that is not your goal, just relax and enjoy. Have a great time. Like, don't stress. Everything will be fine.
True, Sean, that's what I take they do my school. I don't know how I used to. I mean, my thoughts are always good, but I'm always never that. I'm never that student that reads. So it's like, okay, we
I
have good
can
results.
relate.
We keep it moving
Yeah. I
because
always believe in, like, doing the bare minimum just to pass. Like, just do the bare minimum. Just pass. And, you don't
that's
need
why
to
I
get.
love school. That's why I love school. That's one place you can do the bare minimum and be good at
Exactly. And
it.
you
I
just
know
get
this,
away with
this
it.
sounds like this sounds like privilege because I know people that have to read and read and read to be able to
I mean, we
pass.
love that for
I've never
them,
been
but
that person.
you
I'm
should.
happy for all of you. I'm happy you guys have to do all of that. I'm happy, but no, no,
That
no,
could
no,
never be me. Like,
no.
honestly, that could never be me.
Mm. I do my assignments right at the deadline.
Same.
And sometimes
And
if I
you,
can't meet the
you
deadline, I can decide,
wait,
okay, it's 10 marks. I can cover
wait,
up for it and I
I have
leave
a
it.
question. Like,
You
did
know,
you ever
for me,
do?
go
I have
ahead.
a question. Like, did you ever do that thing whereby you know the deadline is tomorrow, and you send an email to your professor, like you compose this beautiful email, and then you wrote like, I have attached my homework, but then you intentionally did not attach, and you send it right before the deadline. After the deadline, they'll get back to you saying that you did not submit the file.
You, my friend, are fraudulent.
And you've been, oh my god, I thought I did. I'm so sorry.
You are a fraudulent person. I think I was
I know,
thinking
like,
I'm a
it's
scam.
always
No,
like,
no, no, no.
it's not
Actually,
just the
actually never
come
did. I never
on.
did that. I never did that. But what I did was every time I have a deadline, I always have a tangible excuse that can make me miss that deadline. So
Uh-huh.
sometimes if I feel that I'm not going to meet up with a deadline for any reason, like almost sometimes I'm giving an assignment, I'm writing an email, like I have already a draft. I don't know why, but God always works out for me. Something always comes up. I cannot explain it, but something always comes up. So half the time I have my draft of um
Excuses.
a valid reason for not I mean I don't have a reason, but just because it's saying I can't submit this assignment based on the deadline, all I'm waiting for is when the deadline comes and I've not met, so I'll just send it. So I
That's
always time
nice.
myself. I see 1 hour, 2 hours to deadline, I cannot meet up. I send up that email
That's nice. At least you
and
have
always come with my
something
tangible
towards.
reasons.
Yeah.
Yes. But I've never done this fraudulent act of
Fraudulent.
sending
Go be smart.
it is
It happened to anyone you know. Like you can forget to send an attachment.
I mean, there was a time I genuinely actually didn't send an attachment. And now that I think about it, maybe that woman, because when the woman was looking at me the next day when we were talking about it, and maybe the way she was looking at me, she was thinking maybe this guy tried to scam me, but I genuinely did not send that. I didn't know. But I've never thought about intentionally not sending. No, 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 no.
That's one of the treats there.
I mean, if I do another master's program or another program, maybe I'll have to have that in mind. But that's
Yeah,
actually so cool because the lecturer is going to think. I mean, during my master's here in Germany, we didn't also we hardly sent via email. There's a website where we usually upload. So I think
upload.
that kind of
True, true, true.
yeah. So we don't have to. Back in Nigeria, give it to your
That's right.
course rep who submits.
Yeah.
The course rep was my closest friend, my university days. Secondary school, I was a class prefect at some point. When I was class
Oh,
prefect, if I wasn't ready for an assignment to be submitted, it won't be submitted. I don't care. I don't care.
wow.
Actually, the truth is, I was not in my school too. I think a lot of prefects didn't do that, but when I had an assignment, it gives us a deadline. Sometimes I negotiate with them because
Mhm.
I always wanted to make sure that people submit the assignment on time. Because in my school, like every almost every class, you have an assignment. We are doing like 9, 10 subjects. You have 10 assignments, and you're supposed to. Each of them is due in 1 week. So sometimes I try to negotiate some of them
That's
when I
nice.
could, but when I couldn't, if people submit to me and I don't feel like maybe like if when people submit the assignment and I see that most of the classmates didn't submit, I can try to stall it. I won't give it to the teacher just
That's
because I want more people to submit. But those are things I know I did in secondary. Sometimes I would just go to the teacher. They will not see me. They will not see me. I'll tell them I'm coming, I'll not come. But in the university in Nigeria, you don't have that leisure. You just give your course rep and submit. So I also had a good friendship with most of my lecturers then. There may have been times where I had to go and submit myself, claiming that I didn't say the course rep or one thing, but because we had a kind of a good relation, they trusted me. You know, when you're one of the good students, sometimes you have that
exactly.
privilege of being trusted. So there are a few things you can do that other students may not do. And but university, I always have my email ready. Like once an assignment is ready, I'm looking at my dates. What are the schedules I have? Actually, I have a like you know how you have a calendar. Sometimes I look at my
Yeah,
calendar. Is
yeah.
there an activity that is planned that can make me not to do this? Good. If there is, I add it to my email, have that draft ready.
Okay.
Then I can have the draft ready a month before the deadline for the assignment. But the assignment, gone, gone, gone,
Because
gone. We'll start it like a week, a day, or some minutes before the deadline. It's, oh goodness.
I
And
see you
afterwards, we
exploding
still
your
managed to
time.
pass. Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
well,
Right. Oh,
God, school, I'm sure. Oh, some of us know how to scam school.
oh, we do. I mean, it's being smart. You work smart, not hard.
True, true. And you know, the thing is, I keep saying this all the time. You don't pass an exam for knowing. It's not because you know. It's not so much about being smart. It's about knowing how the exam
Yeah,
works,
exactly, exactly. You
which
can
is
teach discipline.
which is one of my struggles when I came to Germany. At some point, I didn't understand. Even though I don't think I understand it, I shall manage to pass. But even though I don't feel like I fully
Okay.
understand what makes someone pass an exam in Germany.
I think
But
here,
again,
based on my experience, the grading system is very strict. It's like entirely based on percentages, which is so annoying. Like you can take an exam and the raw mark was 40. So in order for you to get like high grade, you need to get 40 out of 40, which is 100. Like this is when you get like the perfect one. So let's say, for example, you got
yes,
like 30 out of 40, that is 75%. And I mean, losing 10 points is not so bad. But when you convert that to percentage, like it becomes a lot, and then you don't get like a decent grade. So this is why I don't really like the German system, but I understand it. But thank God I'm almost done, so I don't have to
yes,
do this
it's
anymore.
see, thank God I'm done. And confession, thank God I did my exchange semester in Austria because it's the
Ah,
same grading system as Germany, but I think the lecturers were for me, I think they gave more marks. Maybe it's not because they gave me marks. I know I had all A's. Oh. I had
ooh,
1.0. I did 10 courses during my exchange semester. I had nine of them were 1.0, and then
wow,
only
you're so
one was
smart.
1.5. Wow, what a boy to do. And
I mean, as
That
you
was my
should.
saving grace. That was my saving grace because here in Germany, you would. And the thing is, I always say the feedback doesn't seem don't seem to match the score you get. You do
Oh,
something, the feedback comes. I don't know how you are in the science. I don't know how you guys get your feedback, but feedback rather. But here it's basically communication, it's and all of that. So when they give you feedback, they say you've done this. These are the things you did right. I think you could have improved it. Maybe they can give you one or two things they think you could have improved on. So in your head,
oh,
okay,
it's
you
just two
think
things.
if it's two things I should improve on, that means I should have at least 60 or 80% of the work. Let's say
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other two is 10,
exactly.
10 B. But when the results come, you're seeing that maybe what you had is 60% or 70, and it's like,
You're like, make it make
what
sense.
am I missing? Exactly. Yeah, but and also because my exam, we don't write actual exams. So basically, it's the task you
Um,
do that counts for your exam.
okay,
And so the task also, I think it's also very dependent on how impressed the professor is with the task you've
very
done.
true.
Not necessarily because you've written any definitions or trying to explain any concept or anything, and your performance too. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. But yeah, if you actually manage to learn how to pass an exam, you'll be a good student, even if you really
Yeah,
don't know
it makes your
anything.
life easier. Like, it makes life so much
It
easier.
makes your life
Then
easier.
you
Yeah,
can
but
save this time to do something else.
to go around and make new friends and all of
Ah!
that. So back to we're still talking about China. So what was it about China that made the experience so much different from your Doha experience? Because I've heard you talk about these experiences different times. When you talk about China, you sound very excited. It actually sounds like a place you would want to even move back to if you can. So, what
Yeah,
about China made it so different from your experience in Doha?
I think for me, like when I think of China, I mostly just focus on Shanghai because this is where I live. The experience I had there was really great. Like it was such an international city. Like you don't necessarily need to speak Chinese in order to survive there. And also, like you keep meeting so many different people from different countries every single time you're out. So it was very easy to make friends. It was always just it was very fun city, and it's like I would say like a city that never sleeps because you have so many things to do from Sunday to Sunday. Like just imagine like having the options. For example, let's say like you just finished you close from work and then you just wanted to chill with your friends. You have so many places to go to because the bars are not going to close by 12. They're not going to close by 1 a.m. They can stay till like 3, 4 a.m. Like you have places to go, you have places to hang out at. And this is what I love because now I am living in this city here in Germany, and I don't have that option anymore. Like once it is 11:30, 12, everything is closed, everything is shut down, and you're just like, what the fuck? So this is one of the reasons why I really loved it there. And also when it comes to like I would say like buying things online or like getting food options online, everything was purely digital. Like I can just use my phone now. I order for food within 30 minutes it's arrived. Whatever I want, I can just do with my phone. So it was like a very digital society, unlike here, in which everything is so annoying. Like sometimes you even have to pay things by cash. I'm like, who uses cash anymore? Like it's this little thing.
Yeah.
It's these little things that
Not you
makes
dragging Germany, but yes, yes. I
I
was also
know why.
surprised. I'm surprised that I was surprised too the first time I go to a place in Europe and they say cash only, and I'm like,
I
this is
know.
2022, this is
And you
2024.
ask
Why are
them
we
like
doing that?
exactly, and you ask them like, do you have bank transfer? They're like, no. I'm like, so it must be cash then. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, who uses cash anymore? Like who really uses cash? So this is it's just little things that I'm
Yeah.
just like, oh, like but at the end of the day, I think I always tell myself like it is what it is. Like you are here now, just make peace with it. And for me, like Shanghai was amazing. Like I said, like you have all these options. Everything was easy. The transportation was so convenient and comfortable. The metros were running sometimes to like 2 a.m. in the morning. You had buses, you have Uber, you have like different means of transportation. And also, like, it was very easy to get around. Unlike here, like, if you are going to, for example, let's say you wanted to go for a job interview and they tell you to come by 2 o'clock. In here, you need to leave. by 10 because you don't know if the buses will not come on time. You don't know if the trains will be canceled. Like, you just cannot plan anything, which is so ridiculous. So it's just this tiny, tiny little things that just makes me appreciate what I have. So, yes.
I see what you mean. And which is what I'm going to ask you. So why didn't you remain in China? Why did you have to leave?
I always say like China was just how do I used to put it? I felt like for me, China and Shanghai was more like a transit country. It wasn't the end destination. I was just like transiting through Shanghai. Like I needed to be there for my medical degree and medical school just to have this amazing experience, and then from there go to somewhere else. Like it wasn't like my final destination. Because in as much as Shanghai is amazing, you need to realize that your career prospect is different. Me, I am a doctor. So in order to work in a Chinese hospital, first of all, I need to learn and be able to speak fluent Chinese. Not only am I speaking regular Chinese, I have to learn medical Chinese, which is like a little bit harder. So I don't want to go through this hassle of like learning Chinese, taking the Chinese medical license exams, and then working in a Chinese hospital. I mean, it's possible, but as someone who speaks English, why would you want to do that to yourself? So this is why China was always like a transit zone. It wasn't like the last, it wasn't like the destination, which is quite ironic because now I'm here in Germany and I'm having to do all these things. I'm like, what the hell did I do to myself?
Exactly why I was looking at you funny because it's like you don't want to commit to learning Chinese language, and then here you're in Germany, you also cannot even practice because you have to learn the language.
I mean, let's be honest, like, I mean, coming to Germany wasn't like, I mean, when I was in Shanghai, like, I didn't see Germany as where I wanted to go to. I wanted to move from
Okay.
Shanghai to US or UK. But then COVID-19 happened and a lot of things changed, and you have to make some decisions, not necessarily terrible decisions, but you have to make some decisions. And that was how I ended
Yeah.
up. Then it was never in my plan. Like if someone who would have told me when I was in Shanghai, like, oh, Ezekiel, you're gonna move to Germany, I'm like, oh no. But now I'm here, and of course I need to learn the language so I can practice here, which will happen in the future. But for right now, I just want to take things slow. I don't want to like stress myself too
So
much.
does that mean the US or UK dream has died? Like, are you okay now with living in
I
China,
wouldn't say it
Germany?
has died. It's always there. I mean, this probably would be another like transit option for me again because I mean, in order to fully integrate into the German society, like you need to be able to speak fluent, beautiful German. You need to like have friends and whatever, like build something of yourself here. And this is probably when you feel like you're integrated into the German society. Which for me, I think that would happen, but I don't know if I would be able to stay here for long enough for that to happen. I feel like I would rather go to somewhere that speaks English so that I can just like, it's a bit like a seamless transition. But right now I'm here, so I'll just like keep that in mind. But yeah.
Fair enough. So, I mean, I actually totally understand what you mean about the language thing. I wouldn't know about actually learning Mandarin. It was good until they introduced the Chinese characters, and everything was good
I
till like they
mean,
introduced the
don't
Chinese
you
characters.
when I was learning Mandarin, like for me, like when I learn a new language, I always have certain goals I want to achieve. For me, the goal when I was learning Chinese is just to be able to speak and listen and type, not write. Just type. So
Yeah,
this is what I
but
focus
you see the
more on.
thing now, for you to be able to type, you kind of need to be able to identify the characters because if you don't
Yeah, yeah,
identify the characters, you'll be
which
able
is
to
funny
type.
because they have this thing called like it's the alphabet version of Chinese. They call it pinyin.
The
So
pinyin, yeah.
you type pinyin and then you select the right characters. So by being able to read and maybe
Oh,
listen and understand, then it's easy for you to type because you already know the pinyin for the characters you want. You just like type it and then select. So this is what I used to do. I could type, but I wouldn't say I could write because writing means you have to use a piece of paper to, like draw out those characters,
to
which
draw
I
the
cannot.
characters, yes.
I could never
Yeah,
do
but
that.
I mean, I learned because I tried learning in a school, just like Is it
Yeah, just
Confucius
Confucius. Yeah,
Institute?
Confucius Institute. Yeah.
The one in Unizik at the time. That's where I tried to learn. So I think at the time they told us it's a have to thing. I didn't even try to. I don't know that we could work around it on the keyboard because I
Yeah, you could.
remember
You could. Yeah.
learning Mandarin was not so hard for me actually at the
No.
time
Yeah. True.
because
True. True.
interestingly I found that Mandarin has the same grammar rules as the Igbo language.
Oh,
So if
really?
I
Okay.
translated, yes, so if I make an Igbo statement and I translate to English, what as basically if I do a direct translation to English, some words may
Hmm.
not be correct. But if I do a direct
Yeah.
translation to Chinese, I have a higher it's going to be more likely correct or accurate. Does that make
Oh,
sense?
that's
Yeah,
nice.
so it wasn't so hard for me to learn it. But like I said, again, I just did like two classes, HSK 1 and 2. By the time we got to HSK 3, they introduced the characters,
Mhm. Yeah, like who is that?
my fear of drawing and then all the thing, it just was, and also I think the truth I would have maybe continued, but I was not having issues with my classes. The time schedule for the was also crashing with my real academic work, so I had to take a break and I never got back to it. But I was just saying that language is not easy to learn because I tried
No,
learning
it's
that
not.
one.
Yeah.
I caved. I've been learning German for nearly 4 years, and
I mean, I
it's still
saw
a
you speaking
struggle.
German. Your German is way better. I mean, mine is like practically non-existent. I mean, your German is
Yours is non-existent, exactly. So why are you trying to compare the both of them? Yeah, but my German is still very much terrible. And after almost 4 years, so I would understand why you would not want to commit to learning a particular language, just to be able to work in it. But also, the reality, like you mentioned, is if you're going to stay in this country and if you really want to practice
yeah, you need
medicine, you
to.
have to
Yeah.
learn the language. And I think the good thing is that maybe if you're in a medical profession field, you should be able to get. Wait, we didn't talk about it. You should be able to get BAMF, right? I get in BAMF.
What is that?
It's basically BAMF is like an organization that caters to foreigners
Is
or
it
people who
BAM
learn
is
foreign
in the
language.
scholarship
Is
thingy?
it? It's
No.
not BAMF. It's yes, they're supposed to give you some not BAföG, the one that does scholarship. So basically, with the BAMF, you're supposed to get half your German language cost covered.
No, I think they have that for us doctors, but it's only when you're learning medical German. So, in order for you to
Yeah,
access
yeah,
those, you must be able to at least get up to like, is it B1 level of normal German, and then they can cover the cost for your medical German classes.
B2. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because now you're also getting a discount for being a student. So I think if
Yes,
you're
yes,
able to
yes,
get
I
to your
do.
B1, yes, you're able to get to your B1, they should be able to cover the remaining
Yeah, I think for
costs
me,
of your
like the
learning
goal right
German.
now is just to go ahead with the normal German classes, like just get all the certificate out of the way. I mean, it'll be fine if I
Yeah,
can speak, but if I don't, no pressure. Just get the certificate and know how to read and write, and we will move from there.
fair
We'll
enough.
look for
But
a
I'm
full
not
stop.
because now I'm curious to now I have a friend where I was learning German. She works in the hospital. I think she's also a medical doctor. She came from China. And I
Oh,
remember one of the
cool.
times we were talking, she talked about how work in China is very tedious. I mean, of course, we know Chinese
Oh,
company
it
again, just the same way
is.
they
Oh
put
my God, it
a lot of
is.
work in education, they also do that at work. So according to her, that in China, you as a doctor, are supposed to work like 6 days a week instead of 5, and you have to work, is it 10 or between 10 and 12 hours? Basically, it's not 8 hours daily,
Oh,
and that sometimes they are not paid for in the way we know in Germany, if you work any extra hour, any extra
you
minute, to
get
be
paid.
honest,
Yeah.
you get paid. But according to her, sometimes even those extra hours are not exactly accounted for because it is more or less what you're expected to do, not really
Oh,
that you're doing anything out of the norm. I mean, the way she
oh,
painted the picture of the whole work as a medical doctor, I was like, this is not a place
oh.
anybody should even want to work.
I wasn't really aware of that because even when I did my internship, I mean, as an intern, I understand like they have certain rules and policies for us compared to their own doctors because I mean, we're just interns. So
Yeah.
during internship, we only did 8 hours only. if you do sign up for night shift, whatever you do was only 8 hours. So this is the only experience I. Also, the doctors I was working with, oh, probably because they were consultants, so they have like that flexibility, so it makes sense. But like a junior level
I don't
doctor, I
know.
can imagine they'll make you stay
Yeah,
there
she,
and
she
work.
basically painted she basically painted I don't know, it sounds like a horror film because like when you work 10 to 12 hours daily for 6 hours a day and you may not get extra because it's like an expected thing to do, it doesn't sound like something anybody would want to do.
No,
But she
I
also
mean,
she works. Go ahead.
I wouldn't want anyone to do that because that is slavery. It's modern day slavery. We don't do
Exactly. But she's learning German here and she works at the hospital, but I don't know exactly in what capacity.
that.
But she can't practice, she can't attend to patients, but she works in the hospital and she's trying to get her German right so she can
Yeah,
really
yeah, yeah.
begin to
I think this is
practice.
the
And
major issue, like just getting the German skills out of the way. Like once you do this, like you have so many opportunities.
yeah, but for you now, I'm curious because I really don't understand how the
Yeah,
medical profession work completely.
yeah,
Now you have a medical degree and now have you're doing a master's in immunology.
yeah.
So I'm basically trying to understand what does the trajectory look like if you decide for any reason, now that you have a master's in immunology, if you decide not to practice medicine, what would the trajectory look like for you? Because I'm asking this basically assuming that maybe there's another person who is listening that may want to come to Germany as a medical doctor, is already here and not exactly sure where to continue. So in a case where for any reason you cannot practice because again for the language, what other job can you fill in as a medical doctor with a master's degree in immunology? Or even just
I
as a
think
medical doctor, let's say even if you don't have a master's degree, but you have you're a medical doctor, but you can't practice, what other kind of jobs can you take as
I
someone
think
with limited German in Germany?
I think if you have a medical degree, you have some options. Like you could maybe like try to get maybe learn some marketing skills or some consultation skills, and then you can apply for like jobs that have to do with like sales, but only like medical equipment or like consultation for sales, or being a sales rep for like a pharma company that is selling like all these drugs or medical equipment. This is also one area you could go to. Or you can just become a medical consultant and then you can get to work with some law firms that have to do with medical malpractice and this is also an option. And for me, I think if you do have like my background, like you mentioned, immunology or like whatever master's training in research, then you just stay in research and become you do stay in research, like do PhD, do postdoc, associate professor, da 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 da, and just stay in academia. I mean, this is a very long way, but this is also a career option. Or you could just apply for jobs in industry that could like where you can get to use your research skills. For example, you could apply for research assistant at a company, or you could just apply to be like a scientist in a company or whatever. Like you always have these options too. That
Okay.
is if you don't really
Because
want to.
yeah, because I'm always curious as to what happens to medical doctors who do not want to practice or who are tired of practicing. But I think now that you've answered, I think it also gives a perspective to the job options. But I think I have to clarify something because I worked in sales for a while and I worked in a healthcare
Okay,
company.
okay.
And also I've received jobs from job offers to do sales related jobs for healthcare companies. But I think German language might still be needed if you're going to do
Yeah,
any
yeah,
sales
yeah.
related
I'm just
role in
assuming this
Germany.
person knows how to speak German. That is what I was
Okay.
assuming.
And because I just need to get it out of the way so nobody
Yeah,
assumes that we are saying
yes.
you can
Okay,
work in
okay, okay,
sales
okay.
here without speaking German.
Oh, no,
Because
no,
I'm not a
definitely
medical
not.
doctor, but like I said, I worked in the healthcare and it was in
Yeah,
the sales department and they need you to speak German because it's
yes,
like
yes, yes.
of course, okay, it makes sense because the people you are selling the thing to are doctors who have patients who speak German or doctors who speak German.
Exactly,
So
exactly.
you need to be able to speak their language. But I think it makes sense. I think I like that you're able to answer because maybe some people would have an idea of what other options they can explore. Maybe if someone who is not willing or keen on practicing the medical practicing medicine, but is willing to maybe
Okay.
go to Europe, I think they have an idea of what their options could look like with their
Yes.
limited German language
And
proficiency.
also, I feel like sometimes you can also make your own path. Like just look at job placement and whatever, and just see how you can adapt the skills to match what they need. Because it's not like, I mean, it's important for you to find something that aligns more with your interests, and then try to adapt to what they're looking for.
Yeah, I think that makes sense, to be honest. That totally makes sense.
Because like for my case,
That,
when I was looking at some job thingies, they were asking for like they were like most of this sound rep kind of job, and they needed you to speak German. But in the background qualification, you see like they want someone that did maybe life science, medicine, pharmacology, blah, blah, blah. Like they have all this list of like pre-training conditions we're supposed to match. And as long as you meet
yeah.
that, then you just need to adapt that to what you are going for.
Yeah, but now we are talking about this now because you also mentioned about it says something about having some skills. I'm also
Yes, yes.
wondering, maybe again, this maybe because I'm being naive, or maybe
No, you can
I
ask
have
whatever you
limited
want. I want to
knowledge
hear.
about the medical profession, but also wondering what other skills does one acquire during the course of studying medicine that could come in handy in terms of if you're working in industry, if you're working in a corporate situation. Because as far as I know, what you go to do in medical school is to learn about human body, blah 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 blah. I don't
Exactly.
think there's any other thing anybody.
I
Again, that
think
may
like
sound very insulting of the degree, but just so we are clear, what
no, no,
other
it's
skills do
fine.
one acquire during their study of of medicine?
I think like during your study, you might get some skills not necessarily to do with medicine itself or your school training, but sometimes you can do some
Okay.
extracurricular. For example, you can volunteer and I don't know, maybe whatever organization that piques your interest. And through that process, you can get to learn skills outside medicine. For example, maybe
Okay.
you are passionate about like climate change or whatever, and you didn't volunteer in a climate change or any of this organization in whatever capacity, and you get those kind of leadership skills, oh, you get those kind of leadership skills or any other skills from there, then you can keep this and then you can apply later on when you need to use them. So I mean, from medical school directly, you only get skills that are very focused towards you being the best doctor you can for your patient. And if you need other extra skills like leadership, communication, da 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 da, you have to get those somehow on your own.
Okay. Okay, that makes so maybe I'm not even very far off from what I think happens in the medical
No, no, you're
in
not very
nursing
far off because
schools.
I think you also need to realize that as you're going through medical school, it's important for you to get those clinical skills and clinical knowledge. But it's also important for you to be able to grow and develop in other aspects too, because, like you said, you might not be practicing medicine your whole life. And also, sometimes you might be exposed to other environments. For example, like sometime in your life, you would become like, I don't know, like a team leader or a team manager. So you need to get all these management skills as well. So it's better for you to always like do some extracurricular activities, like get into leadership roles in school or like try something else just to build those extra skills that you wouldn't necessarily get through studying.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. I think I have an idea of what you mean now. And I want to ask something. I mean you
Sure,
basically
sure.
studied across four different countries. I kind of want you to make I don't want to say comparison, but I want to basically get an idea of what you think are the let's say pros and cons of studying in these different locations. Because maybe for someone who might be considering going to Doha for studies, I wouldn't suggest that. Because again, I am very mindful about locations that are very conservative. So, but basically, if someone is listening and wondering what it's like to study, what could be an advantage or disadvantage of studying in these countries you've studied in, I want you to give an answer to that. Does that make sense? Each of the
Yeah,
countries, that is.
yeah. I think for me, like, for me, since I went, I'll just go in chronological order, like from where I moved to first. So for me, the most
Yeah.
important advantage I got from my experience in Doha, I'm just gonna use my personal life for example, because I don't know how it might relate to someone else, but this is just from my own experience. Like I went to Doha when I was younger, so it was important for me to get that high school education that I needed for me to be able to gain access into universities that were outside. Because, for example, I know the reality is different for different people. Like, if you do A level, then it's kind of really opens the door to options for you to apply from because you don't need to go back and do like preliminary year like people would do if they have YX or something like this. So if you get a
Yeah.
chance to maybe do A level either in Nigeria or in anywhere else that you can, it's always a good option because this also opened doors. Because this was what I got from my experience in Doha. But if you want to go to Doha
Okay.
for like university or something else to study like a degree there, it's also a nice option because the good thing about studying there is that once you finish studying that program, you can get job in the country. And should you want to go outside, then it's possible for you to also find jobs outside. But then you have to keep in mind that where are you going to? What is the language requirement? Do they have any language barrier and all this different things? But if you study in Doha and you decide to stay in Doha to work, you will definitely find job because the system is you are training the system so you can easily like adapt to the job market there. And with China, I would say that my experience in China was quite nice. And also, like I said, it depends on where you go and what you're studying. But the issue most international students like me have when we study in China is like, it depends on what you're studying. If you're studying medicine, law, or any of this very niche and professional kind of studies, then you need to be aware that whatever you do, you need to learn Chinese to a very high level so that you can get into the job market, then you can get a job. But if you're doing things like communication, like maybe international law or some marketing or any of this degree that you can easily get jobs outside, that is not, I wouldn't say like very professional because this is also professional too. But what I mean in terms of professional is like degrees that you do need to take competency exam before you can practice. In this kind of aspect, then it
Yeah.
wouldn't be a good idea for you to go to China or unless you plan to like go through the licensing procedure just for you to practice, then this is fine. But in most cases, foreigners' experience is that you just go there for studies to get the knowledge and then you leave. Then you apply that to somewhere else. Maybe you go to the UK, or you go to the US, or you move somewhere else. We don't go with the mind of working in China, if this makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense.
So yeah, so this is my experience. I mean, Chinese universities are very good. Like they'll give you a very nice education, and from that education you get, then you can go somewhere else. And if you do intend to
Okay.
stay there and work there, you need to be aware of what you can or cannot do. And this depends on what you study. Because most of my friends that went with me to China, currently, none of them is there at the moment. All of them left because the job market is not as friendly as we think it is. And also, like I said, if you're in courses that require like extra level of competency, like passing an exam, in order for you to get into that system, then maybe that might not be the right place for you to go to. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that is my experience. And here in Germany, I would say it's really nice, but then again, it depends on what you're studying because ultimately it doesn't matter what you study here in Germany. You must be able to speak German in order for you to even get like a head start in terms of like career option. Like if you don't speak German, that is already one major roadblock. No one is going to help you. You're basically on your own. So yeah,
No, no, the one what is about Germany, I think, to be clear, I think the job option you have is dependent on your course of study to an extent.
yeah.
Because if you're
Also,
in a
this yes,
tech-related
yeah,
field, if you're in engineering, you get a job almost as fast as possible, whether you
yeah,
speak German or
true.
not.
Oh yeah, true.
However,
I forgot about that part.
however, yeah, speaking German increases your option, like your chances, like by 100, because
Yeah,
some
yeah,
interviews would basically it just increases your options in
yeah.
so many ways. It gives you an edge, yeah. But if you don't speak in German, you can work in certain fields like tech, engineering, because these are the field that they kind of need more people in. And being that Germany is a very industrialized country, the engineering field is actually a very lucrative field to study in.
Mm,
But if you're doing anything that involves interacting with people, like the medical profession
exactly,
where you have to talk to
exactly.
patients, or if you're working in the communication field where you have to also interact with an audience, or if you're working in marketing or sales and any job at all that involves interacting with clients, not the staff now, to other clients, that is where you're going to need to be able to speak German because they wouldn't want you interacting with their customers if you can't speak German language, which kind of makes sense because even though the average German can speak and understand English, even their command of English is also kind of limited. So it makes sense for
Yeah.
customer or organization to want you to speak the language of their target market.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is just the key about studying in different places. You just need to be aware of the things that go on.
Yeah, so I think this might be the last question, maybe one of the last. The rest of, I think there was a
Okay.
days ago you mentioned that this year makes it like now you've lived half your life out of the country,
Yeah,
something like that.
exactly. Yes,
And I'm
exactly.
wondering, because I think I've also mentioned to you that I realized that you are not really well versed in Nigerian pop culture. And so basically the question I'm going to ask is in terms of identity crisis, I don't think you have an identity crisis because you're very much identified with Nigeria. But I'm just wondering, now that you lived in different places, is there a place you feel like, how do I phrase this? You know how I don't think, yeah, yeah. Where is home to you? Where feels like home to you? I mean, of course, I know
Okay.
Nigeria feels like home, but maybe in these other places, there are places that feels close to home,
I
or
think
is it
for
just
me,
Nigeria that
like,
is still home for you?
I think for some point in my life, like I had issues with like pinpointing where feels like home because I know I was in Abuja a few times, and I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I felt like an outsider because like there's just so much that has happened that I wasn't there to experience that. It's just, I don't know, like sometimes the things I used to get excited about, people just look at me like, where is this weirdo from? Like, you don't get excited about this little things because this is normal. So to me, in a way, Nigeria is home, but also not exactly. And Doha, I would say, is home because I have so much memories from there, like growing up there and all that. But then I don't feel like I belong there either. So that is also not home. And if I had to pick out of all the places I've been to so far, I would say Shanghai is more likely to be home because like just purely based on the friendship I had formed there and my good trajectory since I was in Shanghai and afterwards. And also I know Shanghai, I wouldn't say I know it in and out, but I'm very, very like comfortable and familiar with everywhere there. So I would say this is more or less like home to me. And yeah. Also, again, I have to be aware that I am not Chinese and I would never be. So if you're looking at it from that aspect, obviously that would not be my home either. In terms of like just friendships and how I feel most comfortable and where I had like very nice experiences and also my life trajectory and everything. I would say
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. But also, you mentioned that when you went to Abuja, it didn't feel as that like home. Do you think it's because you grew up in Akwa Ibom and not Abuja? Because I wonder now,
no.
if you go to Akwa Ibom, do you think you feel
No, even
more
when I
at
went to
home?
Akwa Ibom, it was still weird for me. I think the major issue I had every time I was in Nigeria is just it's just the issue of knowing who to trust. Like, outside you just blindly trust people because again, they're never gonna harm you or hurt you or any of these things. Like you just get used to this and then suddenly you're back in an environment whereby you have to think twice about everything you say or every single interaction with somebody. And like it becomes such a hassle, I would say. So this is why I was never like fully like enjoying my Abuja or Akwa Ibom fantasy. Like it was always like I needed to be like super careful and very aware of where I was. So this
Yeah,
is why
I
I
think
was
that makes
feeling
sense.
very, I would say,
I think
out
that
of
makes
place,
sense.
if it makes sense.
I think that makes sense because even though before I left Nigeria, obviously, I lived in Lagos for nearly 3 years. It never felt like home to me. And because even though, of course, there is the whole thing about culture, Nigerians being hard to trust, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
But when it comes to a place like Lagos, it's kind of heightened. So it's
Yes,
like
yes, yes.
everybody in Lagos is after your life. And for someone who grew up in the East, in a
Exactly.
more quieter environment, and being thrown to Lagos is like it felt like a very different ball game, so to say.
Yeah, yeah,
And it's I never felt like I was home in Lagos. Even no
yeah.
matter how Nigerian I felt, Lagos didn't feel like a place that I
Like
was
home.
welcome, which is also why I keep saying if I ever go back to Nigeria for any reason, I don't think I want to live in Lagos. Interestingly, Abuja felt better for me because Abuja was the place that felt a little bit like there was serenity, the kind of serenity you had when I was growing up in Oka. I felt that in
Oh, that's
Abuja.
nice.
But again, it's also the fact that even though when I lived in Abuja, which was very briefly, it still felt like a new place all the time. Sure, you get. What I'm saying is, even though because my family moved around Nigeria a little bit, and I lived the first 2 years of my life in Enugu, lived between the between age 3 and 18 in Oka, and since that time, there's been like a disconnect for me, even at Oka. When I go to Oka again, it feels like a place I used to know, no longer a place I was a part of.
Yeah, yeah,
And then the other places we've moved to, or I have moved to ever since, I lived in Yenagoa for like 6 months with my sister. It feels like there's never another place I've lived in Nigeria outside Oka, never felt like home.
yeah, yeah. I
But
get
then when I
that.
go to Oka that are supposed to feel like home, it feels like a place I used to know. So again, but I imagine that because now yours is in a bigger context of Nigeria, Doha, Qatar, China, and Germany. So I imagine kind of what the disconnect looks like. It's like
Yeah,
this is a place I feel rooted in. But all of a sudden, if I come here, it's like I'm no longer sure. And I hate to say, but
exactly.
also I think even if you go to Shanghai today, I think there'll be some
I
sort of
think it's also,
disconnect
yeah,
too.
it's also different because I mean, that is so true. Like, I was in Shanghai pre-pandemic, and I feel like Shanghai post-pandemic is also quite different. So it might also be like a completely like different reality for me, which I mean, this is the struggle of moving around. You always have to deal with this one way or the other. So now I
I
just
that's
take, now I just keep in mind like you don't belong anywhere, just fly like a bird and enjoy.
I see what you mean. And because I've also thought about this a while, I wonder if I go back to Nigeria, how much disconnect will I feel? Because
It
I've
will,
lived
trust me,
out of that country just 2 years,
it
but
will
I don't know.
hit
I
you.
don't.
It will hit you at the airport. It's gonna hit you at the airport.
Like I told you, if I go back, I'm not even going to. I'm never going to go to Lagos. I'm not going to go through Lagos airport. It has to be Abuja
Please
first
don't.
of
Oh my
all,
God, please don't go to
because
Lagos Airport. That place is like, if you fly through Lagos Airport, oh my God, it would be like, fuck, like, wow.
I will lose my head if I land in Lagos. Like after living in Europe for 2 years now, if I land in Lagos as my first visit to Nigeria,
No, it will
I may
ruin,
have a panic attack. It's going
exactly, it
to
will ruin
it's going to be
everything,
so
trust me.
disorienting. Yeah, but this has been a very insightful conversation, and I appreciate you for coming on board. So
Oh,
I was going to say what usually I end with asking people what advice they would give to people who are going to move to XYZ place. But
sure,
now you
sure,
basically
sure.
have been an Ajala, you've gone from place 1 to 2 and 3. Now I don't even know where to ask you. But now, okay, let's focus on Germany. You've been in Germany
Mhm.
for nearly 2 years now yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
So if someone is going to come to Germany to study for a
Mhm.
master's degree, what should they have in mind? What should they expect? Or
I
what advice would
think
you
they
give them? Yeah.
should, I mean, for me, I would tell them that you, first of all, need to understand the reality of fitting into German culture. Germans appear to be very cold, therefore, it is hard for you to make friends with them. This is just what it is, and I don't understand why, but it's just how it is. So if you're thinking that you're gonna arrive here and then you're gonna like integrate instantly into the society and make friends with the local, honey, no, it doesn't work like that. When you come here,
Ah,
so when you come here, like, don't have that expectations. Instead, focus more like making friends with maybe your classmates that are locals. Like, start small. Maybe you can make friends from church. Like, get this, like foreign network covered. once you have this, then you can try to make German friends. I mean, it's possible, but just be aware that it takes time. And also, when you come here, just also know that in as much as you're coming to study and you're focusing on your masters, start thinking of your life here. Like, what do you want to achieve out of the studies? Like, do you want to stay here more? Do you want to maybe move somewhere else? Because depending on what decision you make earlier on, this will determine if you want to put in the effort of learning the language or not. Because if you plan to stay here and integrate eventually and work here, then the earlier you start learning German, the better for you. But if you know that okay, you're gonna move to somewhere else and this is just like a transit area for you, then of course, like have a party, enjoy your life, and don't care about learning the language. Just get through your masters and then fly afterwards. But if this is not for you, but you want to stay here, then when you get here within the first semester, enroll for a language class. Just start taking it slowly because 2 years is long enough for you to at least get to an A2 level, and then this will slowly open doors for you. So that is my only advice to people. Just keep in mind these things and you'll be fine. And least but not the last, just have fun wherever you go to. Like if you're coming to Germany or wherever you might find yourself, just try as much as possible to have fun because life is too short. Like just enjoy your time.
You see why
So
they say that nobody takes you serious as a medical doctor? Because when it's about fun facts,
this is life for you. Like, come on. Like,
but
what are you
but
gonna
but to be
remember when you're
honest,
old?
well, to be honest, I think you covered most of the things. It's important for them to actually have an idea of what happens next after the
Exactly,
study. And
exactly.
sometimes I know it's scary to think of, well, at least have an idea. Even if you've not made a complete decision, have an idea of what you think you would want after your studies. That would
Yes,
sort
yes.
of guide you to what you do next. Because I actually thought, keep an open mind, let's see how it goes. And then
Yeah,
December
let's
2019,
yeah, true,
my
true,
studies has
true.
ended. And I'm like, what am I doing? But
And
yeah, so
it
have
hits
an idea.
yeah, because it hits so differently when it's almost the end of 2 years, and then you have to worry about like extending your visa and all these million things you have to do. And if you never ever thought of what you're gonna do before this point, wow, good luck
And
to you
then
because
let's not forget that sometimes there's shaggy, because me, I saw shaggy when I tried to extend my visa. There's more
exactly
shaggy involved. There's more shaggy involved. Let's not forget that.
so just
But
be
yeah, I
aware.
think it's important. Yeah. And then the language thing you mentioned is also very important. Start
Yes,
learning
yes,
as
this
fast
is
as you
I think this is
can
the most important.
and
Like once you make that decision, just start learning because it makes it so much easier
as
for
much as
you
you
to
can.
even make German friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And then I think that's really concludes this episode. Once again, thank you very much for coming on board, Ezekiel. It's been a very insightful conversation, a fun conversation at that. And I hope that the
you're
people who
welcome.
listen would have so much fun too.
I hope you
All
guys have so
right.
much fun listening. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they do. They do, to be honest.
They better. Did they have a choice?
They better, because come on.
Easy peasy.
Well, and then we are fun bunch, so there is that.
Exactly. There's that too. Come on. You guys better have a blast.
All right. So if you listen to this part of the episode, thank you very much for joining. And I hope you really enjoyed it or maybe learned one or two things. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred streaming platform, follow, leave a comment, like, and share with your family and friends. And do have yourself a wonderful day. Yeah. Bye bye.
Take care, guys.